Caitlin Clark stands on the sidelines.
Caitlin Clark ripping her hand away from Methany White. Get your damn hands off me. Get your damn hands off me. And then Stephanie White's reaction is, hey! Get your damn hands off me. Hey! Hey! Yeah, no, get your damn hands off me. The fuck is this? You think we're in high school? You think you're Bobby Knight? Stephanie White, you ain't fucking Bobby Knight. Sorry. You're not Bobby Knight. You couldn't even shine Bobby Knight's shoes. You couldn't even put on his socks. You couldn't even iron his clothes.
A heated exchange erupts on the Indiana Fever bench, voices raised, tension crackling through the air. What's unfolding isn't just poor coaching or strategic disagreements, it's a toxic, suffocating atmosphere that has finally exploded into an irreversible crisis. When a franchise receives a once-in-a-generation talent, the absolute baseline expectation is simple: protect that player, nurture her brilliance, and cultivate an environment built on respect and trust. What's happening in Indiana is the complete opposite. A very public, increasingly physical power struggle that has nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with control. Welcome back, and let's be direct about what we're seeing. Fresh video evidence shows Caitlin Clark forcefully jerking her arm away from head coach Stephanie White and assistant Brianne January during a game, and this isn't an isolated moment. This is repeated physical grabbing, relentless criticism, and a mean-spirited culture that's tearing this organization apart from within. The truth nobody wants to say out loud is becoming undeniable. Caitlin Clark needs an escape plan, and she needs it now.
I remember this. Caitlin Clark doing what Caitlin Clark does, hyping up the crowd, getting the crowd rowdy. And here comes the coach. Here comes the coach, grabbing her. Why? What are we doing here? You can't show too much emotion, Caitlin. Everybody's gonna get mad at you, Caitlin. You can't show too much emotion. You're showing up everybody else. What are we doing here? You don't take the fire out of the player.
The footage circulating online isn't just troubling, it's damning, and it reveals a disturbing pattern that's happened multiple times this season. Think about how elite coaches treat their franchise superstars across both leagues. Nobody grabs LeBron James by the arm and spins him around on the bench. Nobody aggressively points fingers in Luka Doncic's face or shouts at Giannis Antetokounmpo like a scolded child. Becky Hammon doesn't physically yank A'ja Wilson or berate her publicly during games, because legitimate coaches understand that superstars are partners, not subordinates to be manhandled and dominated. Indiana operates under completely different rules. It feels less like coaching and more like a calculated campaign to diminish Caitlin Clark, to prove she isn't as exceptional as the world knows she is. It reeks of jealousy, insecurity, and a staggering lack of professionalism. The most recent clip from last night's game shows Caitlin walking toward the bench when Stephanie White reaches out, grabs her firmly by the arm, and tries pulling her closer. Without hesitation, Clark aggressively rips her arm away, her body language screaming defiance and exhaustion. White's face immediately flashes with shock and anger, furious that her star player just rejected her physical authority on national television. This isn't Bobby Knight-style intensity, it's ego-driven overreach from a mediocre coach treating a generational Ferrari like a beat-up rental car. You don't build a championship team by physically dominating the player who's single-handedly saving your entire league.
Agreements on the sidelines. Back and forth, heated back and forth, yelling at each other. Stephanie White pointing, like the annoying person that she is. Just.
The hostile behavior isn't limited to the head coach. It's infected the entire staff, revealing a top-down culture of intimidation that's been festering since day one. Early footage from the season shows Caitlin doing what she does best, energizing the crowd, feeding off their passion, bringing electricity to the building. Then a coach appears out of nowhere, grabbing her, pulling her back, trying to extinguish that fire. They told her to tone down her emotions, accused her of overshadowing everyone else, and tried stripping away the very spark that makes her extraordinary. You never suppress a generational talent's natural intensity, you never pull them back when they're lifting an entire arena on their shoulders. But Indiana's coaching staff couldn't tolerate the spotlight shining solely on her, and as the season progressed, that frustration has only intensified. Every single game has become a psychological battleground, with constant micromanagement turning the sidelines into a war zone.
It seems these coaches just can't help themselves. And here comes Brianne January, grabbing Caitlin Clark by the arm. Let me swing you around. Let me get up all in your face. These coaches are really on one, huh?
Just endless nagging, relentless criticism, pointing fingers over and over again. Watch Stephanie White on the sidelines, pointing, lecturing, scolding like a frustrated principal, disciplining a problem student. This isn't strategic coaching or constructive feedback, it's an ego trip, a deliberate attempt to belittle the best thing that's happened to women's basketball in decades. Caitlin stands there absorbing wave after wave of negativity, forced to endure constant finger-wagging from someone who should be empowering her instead. The assistant coaches eagerly join the pile-on, making the hostility even worse. Another shocking clip shows assistant coach Brienne January waiting for Caitlin as she walks off the court, reaching out to forcefully grab her by the arm, spinning her entire body around, and getting directly in her face while screaming and pointing aggressively.
Caitlin Clark and Brienne January heated on the bench again. Woo! Damn! Forgot how much fire that this clip had. Oh, damn. Yeah. Remember that. There's a lot of this going on.
Watch the raw physical aggression. These coaches are completely unable to control themselves, drunk on their own authority. Once again, Clark is forced to physically pull away from her own coaching staff just to find breathing room on the bench. The sheer insanity of what we're witnessing cannot be overstated. You don't see this kind of aggressive touching and physical yanking with any other superstar in professional basketball. Eric Spoelstra doesn't grab Jimmy Butler by the arm like that, and Steve Kerr doesn't aggressively yank Stephen Curry around on the sidelines. It doesn't happen anywhere else in either league. When coaches need to communicate with their stars, they speak face-to-face with professional respect. They don't grab, yank, push, or treat an international icon like an unruly teenager in a school hallway. This forces an uncomfortable, highly controversial question that nobody in mainstream sports media has the courage to ask. Why is Caitlin Clark the only player on this roster getting physically grabbed and controlled by the coaching staff? Why don't Stephanie White or Brienne January ever grab, yank, or aggressively put their hands on any of the other players on the Indiana Fever roster? Why is the white girl from Iowa the only one they feel comfortable physically manhandling on national television? Is it because they think her polite Midwest demeanor means she won't fight back publicly? Do they believe they can continuously diminish her greatness, knock her down, and physically control her without consequence? The reality is becoming terrifyingly clear. This is Mean Girls culture playing out in real time, Regina George dynamics infecting a professional sports franchise. You have a coaching staff and front office drowning in insecurity, consumed by envy and jealousy because a 24-year-old rookie is infinitely more talented than them, vastly more popular, and generating every dollar of this franchise's skyrocketing valuation. They're actively trying to extinguish her fire, and the toxicity runs deep, even during actual games. Remember the recent footage of the tension so thick you could slice through it? Caitlin Clark and Brienne January clashing on the bench yet again. The fire in that exchange tells you everything about the internal collapse of this team. Caitlin drains a magnificent logo three-pointer that brings the crowd roaring to their feet, and when she walks past Stephanie White, she gives a quick, perfunctory high-five without even making eye contact. Why? Because Clark already knows that hitting a brilliant shot means White will immediately bench her on the next possession just to suppress her statistics and kill her momentum. Even in post-game press conferences, the hostility bleeds through. When reporters ask Stephanie White about Caitlin Clark's resilience and incredible performance, White completely fails to credit her, refuses to offer any praise whatsoever, seemingly allergic to giving Caitlin her flowers. Why? Because Caitlin Clark represents everything they're not. The Indiana Fever front office, Kelly Krauskopf, Amber Cox, and the ownership group have intentionally recreated the 2016 Fever regime, bringing back the old guard, old players, and old coaches, specifically to put number 22 in her place. They want to prove a point, to show her she's not bigger than the league, and they're perfectly willing to lose basketball games and play in front of empty arenas if it means winning the internal power struggle against their own superstar. The Fever organization knows deep in their hearts that Caitlin Clark will walk out on them the exact second her contract allows it. They know she's leaving them high and dry. That's precisely why their marketing department desperately promotes bench rotation players like Raven Johnson, while actively suppressing Clark on their social media channels, trying to build an identity without her, because they know they've already destroyed the relationship beyond repair. They're preparing for her departure because they treated her like an enemy, instead of a savior. If you truly support Caitlin Clark, it's time to stop cheering for the Indiana Fever. This franchise doesn't deserve her, doesn't respect her, and has created a hostile, physically aggressive workplace for the biggest star in the sport. Clark needs to find her exit strategy immediately. demand a trade, or count down the days until she can sign with a real organization that understands how to treat a superstar with professional dignity and respect. Her fans will follow her wherever she lands next, and the Indiana Fever can return to playing in front of 4,000 people just like they did before she arrived. What's your take on this shocking viral sideline footage? Are Stephanie White and Brienne January completely crossing the line by physically grabbing and yanking Caitlin Clark on the sidelines, and is it officially time for Clark to demand a trade out of Indiana? Drop your most unfiltered thoughts below because every single comment gets read. If you want the raw, unvarnished truth about the toxic politics and real drama happening in the WNBA that mainstream networks actively try to censor, subscribe right now and hit that notification bell so you never miss a deep dive breakdown. The boiling point has been reached, and the resistance refuses to back down. We'll see you in the next video.